I think we're
Live.
live.
What?
All right. Hi, my name is Humberto Castañeda, and it's way, way past your Berto time. This is episode, part of a live stream series where I stay up way too late and I talk to you about things that matter to me, things that are interesting to me. Mostly they're topics that are special in the sense that, they're things that we all run into with our lives. So I've had a couple of them. I've had, I think, six now or something. I've done about fear and about, reaching your full potential. That was the one I did yesterday. Today, I want to talk about sadness. Sadness. I, it's not that I'm sad right now. I mean, I might be a little sad. Actually, I am quite sad now that I think about it. But I've experienced sadness, deep, deep sadness, as I'm sure all of us have. And sadness is a really interesting emotion because it's something that, I think in movies and in media, and I think just in general, we think, well, sadness is something to be avoided because we want to be happy. But we all know that it's neither realistic nor is it a full part of the living experience. For example, if you've ever played a video game and learned the cheat code so that you can like set a code so that you can be invincible, for example, as soon as you do that, something weird happens, which is that it stops being fun pretty quickly afterwards. I remember when I played Grand Theft Auto quite a bit. There's these cheat codes so you can go from, normally you got to like earn a better car by stealing the better cars, and slowly but surely you get better weapons, and then you're able to do cooler stuff. But there were codes that let you just get the best weapons, to drop a tank, do whatever you wanted. At first it was fun, right? Because you could like, oh my gosh, I got a rocket launcher. Ooh, I got a tank. Look at this. Not only the cops are showing up, the FBI is showing up, the military is showing up. And so you can make yourself basically invincible. It was fun for a little bit. But it wore out. And not only did it wear out, it had a worse effect, which it made me sort of like not interested in playing the game, at least for a bit. This was true in other video games too. I used to play a lot of Age of Empires. I actually still play it because I got the new edition that came out a year and a half ago or something, which is the HD version. Oh, so good. But I remember the same thing, whenever I would do the cheat codes and all of a sudden I would get like these vehicles and these things that were amazing, it would be fun at first, and then pretty soon it would like take some of the luster out of the experience. And it's fascinating. I've often thought, well, if you could have if you could be a god essentially, have unlimited power, literally do anything you wanted at any time, that seems like it would get boring instantly. Instantly in universal sense. Sure, by human terms, I'm sure you could figure out a good hour, maybe a year, maybe 100 years to go crazy, right? Like, sure, let's do this mental exercise. Right this second, we are going to gain the ability to do anything we want. And we'll pace ourselves because, like, why rush doing everything, right? But look at this escalation. It'll go pretty quick. So immediately we're like, oh my gosh, I can do anything. All right, we'll test it. So you're like, well, can I grow my hand a bit? Oh, yes, I can. Oh, that's really cool. Can I teleport myself to Japan? Oh my gosh, I'm in Japan. Oh, people are freaking out. I'll make them not freak out. Okay, great. Not freaking out. Can I be at the bottom of the ocean without a tank? Like just sit there looking. Whew, I'm at the bottom of the ocean. I'm breathing. Actually, I can't see, but I can see because now I can see. Like I can either have lights or I can detect other waves or I can just see because I can do anything I want. This is amazing. What if I want to see Atlantis? Atlantis doesn't exist. No, it does because I can do anything I want. There's Atlantis. Oh my gosh, I'm going to go have Atlantean food with the. Oh my gosh, they have this banquet for me. What could I eat? I'll eat everything because I can eat anything. I'm not going to gain weight. I'm not going to get full. I can just eat indefinitely. I'll spend like 100 years eating this food. First of all, I don't even understand what the passage of time would feel like because all of a sudden time is irrelevant, right? I can stop time. I can reverse time. I can do anything I want. I didn't like the way that the world turned out in the last few thousand years. Okay, great. I just remade it. Whatever story, history part you want different, you could just do it. It's different. This is great. But you see where this is going. I hope you see where this is going. But pretty soon, like, you think bigger, right? Universally. Like, why am I stuck on Earth? I can do anything I want. I'm the size of the galaxy. Oh my gosh, gravity. I'm sucking everything in. Oh no, I am not, because I can change the rules. So now I'm not sucking in anything. I'm just looking at everything. I've changed the rules of physics. But this is boring. There's no one to talk to. Okay, fine. Giant beings that I can talk to. And this goes on for a bit. Like I said, it could take a while by human time scales. And again, I don't even know what the time scale is for this creature. Like, it doesn't even make sense. But the thing is that at some point, you realize there's no challenge to anything. Like, what's your goal? Can you set a goal, or what are you looking forward to? Oh, I'm looking forward to tomorrow when you don't have to look forward, like, just do it right now. But what would actually probably happen is you'd start setting limits for yourself. You'd say, well, you know what? I'm not going to do anything at any time. I'm going to plan this out. I'm going to limit how intelligent I am. I'm going to limit how many things I can know, because otherwise there's no challenges. There's no things to do. Now, by the way, I could be totally wrong because I don't have these powers. I'm not a god, right? Maybe there's a different realization that comes with that, a different kind of satisfaction, if you will. But certainly from a human perspective, this gets old really quickly because there's no longer a challenge. You've experienced this, I'm sure, in not only the video games, but whenever you get like really good at something and you really get it down, repeating it is not quite as exciting. One example is playing an instrument. So I play piano, I play bass, I've played in bands. There is a challenge when you're first learning a piece, and it can be exciting. And then once you finally get it down, oh my gosh, it's exhilarating. Especially when you get to that point where you've played it so much where your muscles start moving on their own and you don't really have to think it consciously. It's a great feeling. It's the flow, right? But then once you really get it down, like, other than practicing it to keep it up, you don't feel as compelled to like constantly play that same song over and over. Same reason why bands go on the road and they're like, they're gonna request Creep again. We don't want to play Creep again. Like, and then they get tired of playing the same song over and over. Why? At first they were super excited. It made them $1 million. It like propelled them to stardom. Why would they be tired of playing this amazing song that everyone loves? Because they've got it. They've got it. They just want to move on to the next thing. It's another example with the bands. They'll put out their record, and their record's great. Everyone loves them. They love that sound that they've got. And then their next record, they change their sound because they got bored. Look at MGMT. MGMT. Man, I wish they would have kept doing more stuff like Oracular, Spectacular, whatever that thing's called. Such great songs, Time to Pretend, Kids, all this stuff. But, that's not what they wanted to do. They did it, right? So, where does sadness come in? Well, this is a very related thing, right? Because happiness, we love those moments of happiness. Oh my gosh, you're sitting there at the beach on your trip, on your vacation. There's been no issues with your credit card. There's been no issues with cancellations of the flight or the hotel. Everything's gone smoothly. You're sitting there, relaxing, and it's a nice day. You're not getting burned. The margarita or pina colada came on time. It's not too salty. It's not too sweet. You haven't gone too wasted. It's great. And you're just feeling, oh my gosh, this is the best, right? And then the next day, again, you wake up, you go out to the beach, the sun's again shining, same sunscreen. You get that margarita on time, just in time. It's just still not too salty. It's great. Wow, I'm so happy. Look at those waves. Next day, the same. It's perfect. Again. At some point, your happiness wears off. Not only that, you start feeling sad in different ways, right? Like, at some point, maybe it's not the third day, maybe it's 100 years down the line, but at some point, the monotony of like, this was great the first 20 times, but now I want something different. And you start feeling that twinge of sadness. And I'm not even getting yet to like true, deep sadness, like you lost someone, your life is ruined kind of sadness. We're talking about like not even first world problems, like, Olympus world problems, but still, you feel that little feeling creep in. Like, man, this is not quite as nice as it used to be yesterday or the day before. And that's nice because that propels you to move on. You don't stagnate. Well, then life smacks you really hard. Like you lose an uncle because they commit suicide. And it's an uncle that you were too little to fully know and get to know throughout a lifetime. But it's an uncle that loved you, and you loved your uncle, and you looked up to him because everyone looked up to him. He was like the light of the family. And then one day you find out he's dead. And actually, you don't know why he's dead. You find out later why he's dead. That he was so sad. He was so sad that he couldn't bear it. And then you have to go to your grandma, who's his mom. And her sadness is unbearable. It's a black hole of sadness. And she hangs on to you for dear life, sobbing with every fiber of her being. And you're confused because you're little and you don't know what's happening. I mean, you sort of know what's happening. And you just think to yourself, you got to be there for her right now. And it is so intense and sad. And there's nothing you can do, really. I mean, time, right? Time's the only remedy at that point. And that's true sadness. And so, you got to wonder, like, is that sadness necessary? I mean, because so far we've been talking about, like, man, I'm a little sad that the game that I was playing lost its luster, or this margarita tastes just as good. I mean, those are not real issues, right? They are connected, though. And so it's an interesting question, like, what level of sadness is necessary? Of course, this was explored in so many books and fiction, The Matrix, and the whole thing of, like, spoiler alert, but, the multiple matrices they had to create because humans were too happy in the first versions of the Matrix. And, like they went crazy because it's like, oh, this can't be real. It's too much happiness, right? So they needed to introduce sadness. Fair enough. But what level of sadness? So, I've always said, look, if we're a simulation, right, and, aliens or gods are testing different things out, fine. We're just their playthings or their little lab rats, and they're like, well, let's see how much sadness they can tolerate. Okay, fine. But if this were sort of a loving situation where it's like a little environment has been created for us to experience in a loving way, in other words, someone out there is trying to optimize it for us, I'd still buy that they're like, well, we got to introduce some adversity, some challenges, because they probably realize this themselves, especially if they're omnipotent. But so they do that, right? But to what extent is it necessary? Meaning, what level of sadness? As an example, I'm pretty sure that the level of sadness experienced by the dinosaurs when an asteroid hit them is probably too much, right? Like, if the idea was to balance out their, feelings, that's probably gone a little too far. Okay, so clearly full extinction, wipe out the species, like, that's a little too much sadness. So let's back off. What about things like the Holocaust, right? Like millions and millions of people dead, and like the infinite sadness of that, right? Is that necessary? Oh, like, does it wake us up to the bigger realities and how we got to better shepherd our... Man, I don't know if that's necessary. Like, I think we could have done okay in other ways without that. But it's an interesting question. And at a more personal level, how much sadness should a human have to experience as part of the whole thing to balance things out, if you will? I think that someone like losing a child, or, like these tragedies where like whole families are lost at sea or things like this, like, that seems like a little too far. So, if I were balancing the universe and balancing these little environments, I'd be like, yeah, we're going to experience adversity. You're not going to win your 6th NBA ring in a row or something. Fine. And, we'll go further. You're going to break a leg. Man, let's go further. You might never even walk again. Maybe, right? Older folks will die. Man, you will have to say goodbye to grandma. Sometimes maybe you have to say goodbye to folks a little sooner. That might be where I start drawing it, though, like drawing the line. Like, I don't know that I need to have, like, yeah, well, some people need to be fully starving, destitute, on their deathbed from the moment they're 0 years old. I'm not sure that's necessary. That's no incentive. Like, it's not like the guy or the gal trying to come up with a creative invention to move the world forward is looking at, like, oh, either I do this or I will be in Calcutta starving on the streets. Like, that's not the math, the mental calculus. There is that survival thing of the primitive brain going like, oh, I need food to survive. And that's fair. But the calculation is really more advanced at this point. A lot more metaphor goes into play. Like, what's my social circle? What is my social goal? How can I be remembered forever? How can I make an impact? Those kinds of things. It's the Maslow, right? Maslow pyramid of needs. Like, we're not all dealing with the bottom rungs. And that's a good thing. I mean, lucky us. Sucks for so many people and animals, right? So yeah, the universe is a violent, chaotic place, and most atoms don't have a fun, nice, happy time of it. Some of us in this little tip of the spear of consciousness and things, we get lucky. We get lucky for way many more years than others. And that's great. And even though I've experienced incredible sadness, deep sadness, and sadly I will experience much more. I'm still very lucky. I'm among the luckiest organisms probably ever, that at least in this planet, whatever, right? And I'm super grateful for that, and I feel lucky. But again, I don't think we need to have the extremes in order for me to feel appreciative and for me to be incentivized. So my conclusion with all this is sadness is a necessary part. We need to embrace that. And we actually need to be somewhat thankful, maybe even a little happy that there is sadness and that we can experience that sadness. But there is a limit to how much of that sadness is necessary or conducive. And I feel for you if you've experienced or are experiencing that sadness right now, those levels of sadness. I wish you didn't have to. And so if I have a goal for myself, it's definitely to try to minimize the sadness caused by destruction by optimizing more for creation. So, how does this translate? This translates into, well, I don't think more and more destruction of our environment or of people or of people's lives is conducive. I think creation, new things, conservation towards creating more life and sustaining life, that's good. It doesn't mean an explosion of, because like more and more life uncontrolled is still a cancer, right? So there is a balance, but that's what I tend to, and that's basically my religion, is that my faith is that there is a choice to be made, whether you make it consciously or not, that there's a choice to be made between creation and destruction, between being and not being. And that the universe is, this is the faith part, is tending towards trying to stay alive and creative. And that there's a lot of forces, maybe all of them, going against that. And so if I can do something, and if I can encourage anyone to do the same, is create, sustain, allow life to continue instead of the opposite. And that hopefully minimizes suffering to a point and minimizes the infinite sadness to a point. But it doesn't eliminate it, and it shouldn't.